Sit back and relax because it's story time here on The Old Man Speaks. I'm Joshua. I come to you 3 times a week for 5 minutes. This one goes out to Esther. This is the story of how Horatio Goosenfat came to the town of Arkville some years ago. Now, Horatio Goosenfat had a long standing reputation, famous as a scoundrel, a man you would not trust with your daughter, your money, or your property. When he was very young, he started to preach. He was neither a religious man or a moral one, but he could preach, and he always managed to get people to do what he wanted. He amassed a fortune, but as his reputation grew as a scoundrel, he took on other ventures, all with great success. There was Goose and Fat Motors, where he sold used cars, Goose and Fat Real Estate, where he sold property that other agents could not or would not sell. There was Goose and Fat Snack Food. These are just some of his companies. He had a dubious talent for going right to the limit of the law without being convicted of any of the wrongdoings which he wrongly did. Arkville was a peculiar town in the middle of the USA. Peculiar because they were an ancient religious Italian sect that lived by the writings of their once leader, the little known prophet Urk. Urks valued above all things charity for the poor, congregational dinners, and antiques. They took antiques very seriously as a call to remember the generations that came before them. In fact, Urkville had the best antique shops, and the people's homes were all adorned with all types of wonderful antiques. Now Horatio Goosenfat was getting old, and he was looking for a nice town to retire with. He had been to Urkville for the antique shops. You see, Goosenfat had the largest collection of antiques in the country, and his collection was often talked about by the fine folks of Urkville. The mayor of Urkville was the town elder, and he was indeed very elderly. He said, "You need to find a new mayor, for I am not long for this world." Goosenfat thought to himself that he would be a fine mayor, although he was not an Urk and had no experience with any government functions. Most of the people in the town liked Goosenfat because of his expertise in antiques and his taste for fine food which he brought to the community dinners. When he announced that he was running for mayor, many people cheered, but there was one man who was very concerned, and he was the head of the city council, a man named Jethro Wiseman. And Wiseman warned the people, "He is not one of us. He has a bad reputation, and we need to elect an Urk. Therefore, I will run in opposition to him as someone that you know and trust." Well, you can write the rest of this story because we can see what will happen next. Goosenfat brought in special political experts, the type of which the Urks had never seen before. They ruined Wiseman's good name and confused the fine people of Urkville so that they did not know what they knew, and they knew what they did not know. That's what politicians do to you. When the counting was all done, Goosenfat won the election. It wasn't long before things started to go bad. Public money was squandered, so there was no money for basic services. Goosenfat was getting richer while the people were getting poorer. Yet there were still some people who kept making excuses for their obviously corrupt mayor. Goosenfat only lasted one term, and then he moved to a different town. Someone else took on the job of rebuilding the town of Arkville. But the Irks were now divided, and their once nice town was now poverty-stricken. The moral of this story is always listen to old wise men. Jethro would agree. Until next time, see ya.